All right, so very quickly, I recently came across a research that's, said that by the American Psychological Association that said that it's not so much about caring how much we care, but it's about us caring without emotional boundaries. Now, as coaches, we often absorb our clients' emotions without necessarily realizing it. How can we tell when our empathy is healthy and compassionate versus when we have crossed the emotional entanglement and that emotional entanglement crossed that line as coaches? Over to you, Toluse.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. A very valid question. There is something called professional boundaries, and one of the trainings that you receive is empathy is key. It's part of what you're taught, but you have to be able to detach, right? So you don't carry the burden and you don't become emotionally attached. So there's a reason why you are even is unethical, right, for you to attend to your family member, right? Because you might be blinded by the emotions that where you're supposed to go deep, where you're supposed to ask very critical questions, you then find yourself, attaching emotions to it. And so is a call for balance, basically, where you know that, okay, this thing is like sometimes when I have people who have dealt with grief and they share their stories, I am touched because I've had reasons to deal with grief on a personal level. Can I cry in their presence? I found myself weeping with them before, right? Which normally I'm supposed to like be there for them. So theoretically, a shoulder to lean on, theoretically, not practically, right? But then I must also give that boundary to say, look, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is where you are. And my job, because your job as a therapist or a coach is to hold the person's hand through the journey, not to give them 5 things, 10 things, 7 things, 8 things to do, right? The number of times they know what to do, but they need
Yeah.
someone to hold them through and to hold them through that journey. So you must be careful not to become the one going ahead and asking them to follow you. And they also must be careful to blur the lines. So you're saving numbers and then they're seeing your status, or you're commenting on their status, for example. Someone reached out to me, so I was like, oh, I don't see your status. I'm like, you're not supposed to be seeing my status. The fact that I have your number saved is so that when you reach out to me, I'm not having to ask who is this person, because we still have sessions to do after our first, second sessions. Otherwise, I wouldn't save your number. So you're not supposed to be seeing my status, right? So that you're able to blur the lines between care and personal interactions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You've just shared, shoulder to lean on. We should also learn to blur the line. Now, Sharon, still just
Yeah.
bordering on what Toluse has said. Many coaches don't have that formal training in mental health. Yet they assume that they find themselves with clients who are yet sometimes they find themselves with clients who are deeply emotionally wounded. Toluse has
Yeah.
said we should blur the line. Toluse has said, yes, we should provide that show. We can provide the shoulder they can lean on and hold them through that journey. But how can we coaches support our clients responsibly without necessarily crossing professional boundaries? You want to,
Thank you.
just share more on that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And in thinking about it, I think the key thing is coming to understand the fact that care is very multidisciplinary, and it's very holistic. I don't think that there's any particular profession that can say that on their own it can fully attend to every aspect of human needs. Yeah. So it's usually, first of all, even having a sane estimate of your limits, knowing your professional capabilities, and being able to understand that even though sometimes where we work, either on our own or in companies, you're working, maybe this is solely a coaching agency and you don't have other disciplines. It's always good to have that understanding that it's multidisciplinary. So whenever you find out that there are things beyond your professional capabilities, it's important to refer. Yeah. And that's why, beyond just what you're doing, every coach, everybody in every sector should have, a referral list of other people who do other things. Sometimes, I like to flip that question. What if I'm in session with someone and the person has a swelling, serious pain? Would I say I don't know that is beyond? I don't know if you get my point. You won't say that is. You won't say you don't know that physical health is not it's not your area of expertise. Yeah. So I think sometimes one reason why some people try to delve into places where they do not have professional skills is maybe you think you have, in quote, an idea of what the problem is and it's something you can deal with on your own. Or some people don't want to lose clients and they feel if I refer, the person won't come back. But typically, if you I'm remembering when at some point I was at the psychiatric hospital. You find out that in clerking on a ward round, when the patient is seated, yeah, or a client, anybody, you see that there are so many disciplines. There's social work, there's a psychiatrist, there's a clinical psychologist, there is the occupational therapist. Everybody is there, saying, okay, this one is my own part, I'll do it. This one is my own part. So it's just being able to understand the bounds of your professional skills and also arming yourself, with resources of other people who do other things and collaborating with people to do the job. It would even help your own work have a better outcome compared to trying to do much more. So yes, I think it's understanding the bounds of your strengths and also leaning on, the strengths of others and working as a team, even if it's not physically present, but being able to do referrals.
Absolutely, Sharon. Absolutely. Understanding the extent of your own capacity as a coach, as a therapist, and being open and willing to collaborate, to seek referrals, to help clients, achieve their goals. That's profound to share. Now, Toluse, still on what we're saying, a lot of coaches find that while helping other people to stay centered, they struggle to maintain their own mental routines. So what daily or practical habits do you recommend for building mental resilience? The type that would help us as coaches stay authentic and not necessarily lose ourselves,
So, I mean, Sharon would agree with me. There's something in this practice that we say every therapist needs a therapist, basically, because yeah. Let me share an experience I had. This was 20, because this year makes it 10 years that I started practicing. So I was with a friend, I think in 2016 or thereabout. And so then I used to do hypnotherapy, right? Sleep hypnosis and the likes. And someone had called me that, oh, I've not able to sleep and the likes. We have been talking, and I was like, okay. And then I got into offer sleep hypnosis with her. I don't think about hypnosis is you are releasing energy, right? And so it's like you are taking from yourself. Do you know that if I wasn't with my friend that day, I could have lost it? Because by the time I was done, I was flat out. Like, I didn't know when I sat on the soccer way. And so my friend, because he's also a therapist, picked it and helped me come back to life. So the point is, even as coaches, you need to have someone that you're able to defer to say, look, I need to talk to you. I need to declutter. I need to let things out. Don't wait until it's so heavy before you reach out to someone. And so don't practice in isolation. It's not a competition, right? Yeah. It's not a competition. Your client will be your client. And it's not every case that you handle. Trust me. I've had people who have reached out to me, and I'm like, you know what? I may not be able to handle this. Let me recommend. For example, this is the first time I'm seeing Sharon, right? But I've had reasons to give her name and other people say, look, reach out to this person from the health, reach out to this person from this so and so. I can't handle this. And also know when to step back, gauge your own mental capacity at that point in time, gauge your energy at that point in time. It's not, yes, I know that, because let's not lie to ourselves, even though you care about people, the money is also a thing, right? You need to make ends meet and all of that, but don't let it overshadow your health, because in the end, what you can avoid it. So you don't become what you are treating. You don't become what you are handling. When I
You
had
don't take
a
on.
mental, is that?
You don't take on.
Yes, you
Absolutely.
don't take on. Yeah, I mean, when I had mental breakdown in 2021, the first person I thought of was a clinical psychologist. No, my friend was a psychiatrist, who then was like, "Who do I now tell you to talk to?" You know, almost everybody. But you know, at that point in time, I couldn't remember any therapist or psychologist's name. I was blank. But because I reached out to a friend who is in the practice, and I
Wow.
started mentioning names, and then I began to remember, oh, yes, I know this person. So I reached out to someone who is supposed to be a friend to help. And I was going to pick my psychiatrist. I picked someone that I met on a panel session just maybe less than some months ago, but we had developed bonding. What I see happening a lot amongst coaches is everybody is isolating themselves in practice. Or you are a life coach, you are a masterclass coach, you are a this, and so you just want to work in isolation. No, build build rapport with people in that area. You may be a life coach, but you have a rapport with someone who's into behavioral health. You have rapport with someone who's into workplace coaching and the likes. It's going to help. Because someday a workplace coach has a training, but he knows that he needs a component of the things that you do. But because you don't have that relationship, you're not able to approach that person. So it's very much important that you build a rapport. There are therapists and life coaches and coaches today that we will not talk every time. But when people reach out, I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't know someone, but I can talk to this person who may know that person, may know that person. So it's important to know who you can declutter with, build that relationship. And that's the beauty of Elcan. Build that relationship. You have coaches of diverse, what they call them now, diverse practices and specializations in Elcan. Build rapport, interact with people, attend events, network, so that when you find yourself at some point, you can come to say, look, I need someone who can do this. I need to talk to someone, and then someone can reach out. So again, the way we say every therapist is a therapist, I would say every coach needs a coach.
Needs a coach. Absolutely. Fantastic. Every coach needs a coach. And I sense a lot of collaborations here. I sense a lot of rapport building and relationship building and all of that. And let's move very quickly to self-care. As coaches, I find that when we finish our programs, many people consider rest as just going to the spa or building their self-esteem as using just affirmations and all of that. But the thing is, self-care is now very much less about relaxation. It's more about your nervous system regulation. It's more about you taking rituals, doing meditations, doing a lot of things that, will help elevate your energy vibrationally right now. Sharon, let's talk on the real meaning of self-care. We talk about self-care, but for the people that hold space for other people, for the therapists, for the people that Toluse has just talked about, what does that really mean for us? What does it mean beyond going to the spa? What does it mean beyond doing affirmations? What does self-care truly mean for us as coaches?
Thank you very much.
Sharon.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I think sometimes people can be mechanical about what they call self-care. And sometimes it's just a once in 3 months stumbling on words of affirmation, once in a while, just going to the spa, or just doing something once in a while. And from practice, I've come to realize that, you see, the real self-care is the one that you're able to effectively embed into your everyday life. Yeah. So much so that it's what we like to call work-life balance, but it's a part of everything you do. And I usually like to approach it like this, but particularly when I'm speaking to people who head companies and it feels like as if I don't have time, how am I able to do this? And I need to be able to care for myself, because it's from within I would give out. Yeah. And it made me to come to realize, I think I stumbled on something too, which also formed the idea, and also over the years, is the fact that a lot of self-care can be approached from how we manage our time management. To take, for example, I like to do this practical exercise. Look at your schedule. If you have a calendar app you use your Google app, look at it in the past 4 weeks. if we divide it into 4 quadrants, I'm going to give the 4 different quadrants, yeah? And looking at your schedule, you tell me, or you can just look at it on your own, what these activities fall into. So there are activities that, one, we prioritize. You know, these are activities that are our life's work, our professional work. These are activities that they take from us, but they also give back to us, either financially, or they give back to us fulfillment, self-actualization, meaning. You know, they give us a sense of purpose. Yeah. So that means in the past 4 weeks, what activities are the activities that you have that should fall under that quadrant of prioritize? You know, activities that give back to you either financially or give back to you a sense of fulfillment and purpose, even though they take from you too. Yeah. Now there's now another one, activities that you need to protect. Now these are the activities that self-care falls under. You know, activities like, you know, going to the gym, Pilates, you know, talking to friends, cooking, hosting, helping, you know, reaching out to people, you know, rearranging your space. These are activities that they don't have ROI, they have ROV, in the sense that they don't have return on investment. They won't give you money, but they'll give you value. Yeah, value, they'll give you value, they'll help you be vitalized, be energized. And this is energy you can pour back into things you prioritize that can eventually give you money again. Do you get? So you may not be able to say that, oh, I went to the gym and so amount of money entered my account. In fact, you might get debited. Yeah. But what you will get back will be value that allows you to be able to do more work. Yeah. In a very relaxed, re-energized state. We now have the third quadrant that are things that, activities that you can delegate. Things like laundry, going to the market, you know, you're invited for something and say, oh, we're having a love feast, so everybody needs to bring something. And then you now say, oh, I really wish I can take pounded jam and egusi. And then inside your busy schedule, you're saying, when will I pound jam? When will I do this? If I don't cook the one that I took, nobody will. Do you understand? And then there's just, I can walk somewhere and buy it and take it there, and I still showed up. Yeah. Your laundry, you know, buying things, you know, they are set, and these are things that they're important. Yeah. But if you don't do them yourself, heaven will not fall down. You can delegate them, buy back time that allows you to relax enough for you to then do the things that you prioritize. And then there's not the fourth quadrant, things that you should just absolutely delete. Yeah, these are activities that they don't give. They take. So sometimes the social media, relationships that don't help you feel great about yourself, you know, activities that make you feel like you've overstayed your welcome, just, you know, just things that take from you. So the overarching idea is the fact that when you look at the way you manage your time and how each of your activities fall into what you prioritize, what you protect, what you delegate, and things you should delete, you find out that you are left with 2 things: the things that you prioritize and the things that you protect. So these are things that help you feel purposeful, things that help you feel like you are achieving and doing a lot. And then there are things that feed you and revitalize you. And on a daily, your calendar looks like it. Yeah. So you don't go to your calendar and your daily activities, and for the past 1 month, you have been circling around activities that you should have delegated that have sapped so much energy from you. You're not looking for one spa day or one auspicious August day. You know, I am delaying it, so in 3 months I'll go and rest. No, you can start from the little things of, what does my calendar look like? Yeah. My day, how do I plan my week out? Am I intentional about ensuring that the things I value, because you got to realize that the things that you value and the things that you should protect, that feed you and revitalize you, they are the first victims. Yeah. You find out that, oh, I want to do something. Why do I need to go to this bar? He's not giving me anything. Let me shift that one and then go and show up for this one. Why do I need to call that friend? Oh, I'm busy, Jerry. Then you realize that the things that actually feed you get to be the fall guy. And then it's work. And then postponing the day of self-care. And then it looks like self-care is an event. So essentially, self-care should not be an event. It should not be a Christmas event, once a year thing. It should be something embedded into your daily activity, into your weekly activity. It doesn't have to be, what's the word? It doesn't have to be spectacular. Yeah, it doesn't have to be spectacular. It can just be as consistent as knowing reading a book at the end of the day helps me. Waking up at this time to do this. When I do this, it helps me to be able to show up better. And then, yes, you can then do the spa and the others. So it's not discrediting spas and words of affirmation. It's just understanding that we have to be more intentional about self-care beyond making it an event. And it has to be something that you're actually intentional about. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say That's it. So beyond just spas and words of affirmation is planning your activities around the things that you value, planning your daily activities and embedding them into your schedule to just show up for yourself like that. Yeah.
Excellent. Can you hear me loud and clear? Is my network good? Okay, thank you. Excellently delivered. Thank you so much, Sharon. While you were speaking, you were speaking to just me. When you said that the things that feed you and revitalize you should not suffer. Prioritize and protect. I mean, that's top of the burner for me right now. Prioritizing and protecting. Now let's look at, how using coaching and boundaries can help us. Toluse, neuroscience says that we mirror, the feelings, the emotions of our environment as humans, right? So what I'm saying is, it can sometimes feel as though we coaches, when we're having sessions with clients, situations can get tricky for us if we haven't really dealt with what we're dealing with, helping the client deal with. And I say this because even while I'm doing my money coaching, going through clients' bio, especially during the private sessions, if I see some childhood experiences, childhood trauma or childhood experiences or the dynamics around their family, if it relates to mine, I feel that emotion, I feel that shift. Now, how can we coaches recognize those moments and manage them in a professional and ethical manner? How can we do that?
Very great question. I think that first off, you're doing yourself a great disservice if you're still going through a particular challenge or issue, and then you think that that's the best time for you to go coach somebody on that same issue. The first error you're likely to make, and please underline the word likely, is to look at the issue through your own lens or lenses of how you would handle it as against coming from a professional angle. Because you are still dealing with, you still have an emotional attachment to that thing that has happened to you. And so it's either you are going to be teaching the person how to attack, or you're going to be teaching the person how to defend, or you're going to be blank. There is an hypothesis that has not been, I don't think there's any statistics to back it up, that what people talk about the most, what they seem to fight against the most, there's a likelihood that is what they are perpetrating. Yeah. So it's a saying, like I said, if you hear someone talk about, they're constantly, if you hear a guy, for example, constantly talking about, oh, rape, when we get rape victims, we'll slaughter them, we'll do that and all that. It's either of two things. Again, like as an hypothesis, either of two things is that a person is engaging in that act secretly, or the person is trying to fight something that has happened to such a person and is still emotionally attached. So in a nutshell, you can't be ill and say you want to heal somebody when you haven't healed yourself. I found myself in situations where, like I said earlier, I wasn't in the right state to take on a case, and so I had to refer. I've had a couple of sessions where I was supposed to have a session with that same person, but then I felt like at that particular time, I wasn't fit enough to show up for that session, and so I had to reschedule. And so it's important that you don't become brothers in arms. You don't become two people who are hurting, who are ill, and then it becomes rub my back, I rub your back. No. Because the person who has come to you assumes that you know, assumes that you are trained, assumes that you're a professional, assumes that you are like this and he or she is like this. So you can't afford to now bring yourself this way. Then it becomes peer to peer. But you're not peers. The person did not come to you looking for a peer. If the person was looking for a peer, the person knows what I'm looking for is peer-to-peer support. That's a different ballgame entirely. That you can create communities. I usually call communities like that brothers in arms. Everybody is going through the same thing, but you are now learning from one person. Oh, this is what I did when this happened to me. You may want to try it. And for every peer support group, there is, in quote, a professional or someone who is more knowledgeable that can say, okay, this might have worked for you. And that's why we talk about, we say something called person-centered care, right? Where the method that worked for Cynthia might not be what will work for patients, right? Because though they might have gone through the same event, but their threshold to pain, their psychological aptitude and strength may differ. Their level of resilience may differ. So if for any reason at all, you realize that this person that has approached you on a particular matter, you seem to have an issue in that area, don't just tell the person, if you see me, I myself, I am still struggling with that thing. No, just simply say, I'm glad that you reached out to me. I mean, I count myself honored that I even thought to look for a coach to attend to you on this matter, or for a therapist to attend to you on this matter. However, at this point in time, I may not be able to take up this matter due to other commitment. Please, out of respect, are you okay with me referring you to someone else? Or I could give you a list of people who are specialists in this area that you can reach out to. However, I'm available if you ever need any support. So what you have done is you have moved the burden of showing up and always wanting to be correct while you battle with it to another person, but being able to offer peer support, even though the person doesn't know that what you are offering is peer support, right? So we need to be very clear and be sure that when these things come to us, you ask yourself first, is there a battle within me? Have I healed from this matter? Am I well enough to say I want to handle this? Because if care is not taken, what would happen is with every story the person shares, you are triggered. So at the end of the day, the client or the patient does not become the therapist or the coach, and then you become the patient or the client. So you don't always have to show up. It's okay to take a step back. In fact, it's okay for you to hibernate, pause practice for a while and go deal with it, and then come back energized, come back better so you can serve people. Because you carry, I'm looking for the word to use. When you come out to say you're a coach, you are a therapist, you are a whatever, what you are telling people is, look, I hold a wealth of knowledge. I hold an arsenal of skills. I hold a bag of wisdom that I can help you navigate this. So whoever is coming to you is coming to you on the basis of this person is skilled. This person is experienced. I do not know Jack. So let me approach this person. You don't want to leave that person with a horrible experience, because unfortunately, they then pick what they've experienced from you and use it as a yardstick to judge others in that area. And as I go on Twitter and then hear people talk about coaches, talk about therapists, talk about and all of that because of an experience that they had with one person. So please heal before you try to heal others.
Awesome. It's okay to hibernate. It's okay to go and re-energize yourself before and then come back before you help other people. It's okay to seek peer support group. You're just speaking to me. And then there was something you said which I considered quite profound. You said what people fight against are sometimes the demons that they are fighting. You know, I sometimes see those things as shadows. Maybe they're dealing with the shadow, or maybe they have things they haven't dealt with as their shadow personality. Now, Sharon, thank you so much, Toluse, for that. Sharon, still on what Toluse has just shared. I find that when I teach, when I coach, after some of my sessions, especially when I do those 2 days marathon things, I'm drained completely. I feel overwhelmed. Sometimes it can last for days. Sometimes I'm too tired and overwhelmed to do follow-ups, to follow up on people who have signed up, or to just even to receive feedbacks. And I know that many coaches experience this because I've had to speak to some of them as well. So how can coaches tell, from a trauma perspective, from your, I want you to share from your crisis management expertise and all of that. How can coaches tell what they're feeling is not just tiredness, or it's and how can we discern if it's not our secondary trauma or vicarious stress from helping other people that is affecting us? How can we discern that, Sharon?
Okay, thank you. So I think the very first time would be to look at the onset. When did it start? When you know the beginning of something, you can be able to say, oh, okay, it started on this day. What was peculiar about that season and that time? So you can then be able to start from there. So the first thing is when did whatever it is you're feeling start? Before we decide to say, is it tiredness or it's secondary trauma? And then the second thing would be to look at the fact that a person who is experiencing tiredness is as a result of having given out. Yeah. Secondary trauma is as a result of having received. So it means that you are tired because you got involved in something or did so much that took from you. Yeah. Secondary trauma a lot of times is just being there to experience another person go through an experience, or be there when a person retells an experience that they've gone through. And of course, you empathize to the point where you're able to literally see yourself in their shoes. And it's human. It's human to be able to hear a person's story, and just somewhere in your mind, this could have been me. This is a very possible experience that I could have had. Or sometimes it's even like the last straw that breaks the camel's back, where you are hearing someone tell you something, and it is maybe the third you're hearing in a week, or the second you're hearing in a week, and then there's not like, how come 3 people, 4 people, and then you're not having that emotional burden. So like I said, first is when did it start? It can be able to tell you if it was something that you got involved in, if it was something that you observed, or in a bid to help someone. Second thing also would be to, like I had said, would be to look at what it is that you are experiencing, to say, okay, is this as a result of what I've done or what someone brought on? And it's also to know that sometimes the symptoms or the signs of both of them, of tiredness and secondary trauma, might look the same. So you might find yourself either having recurrent flashbacks about what the person has said, how you felt in that moment when someone told you, I went through this. Yeah. It could also be you being able to say, okay, I'm having dreams about this thing. I can't just get this thing out of my mind, or I'm avoiding certain things. And you know that these things you're avoiding, you're not avoiding them because you had a first-hand experience with them. Someone told you that you got mobbed at a particular junction, and all of a sudden that junction is a place you don't want to go to. Yeah. That in itself is secondary trauma that you're experiencing because you were never there, and it's not tiredness. You were never there, but now you're cautious and hypervigilant because someone else has experienced something, and it's not a lesson for you not to go and experience it. Yeah, so you find yourself avoiding, hypervigilant, having flashback thoughts, about experiences that you didn't have personally, but experiences you came to vividly know about because someone else told you about it. And then there's now the one that tiredness would now be, that state of feeling either drained, and sometimes tiredness is not even just being drained. Sometimes tiredness just comes from, finally I'm done. I've been able to effectively do this thing I've always wanted to do. So tiredness, of course, it's not what everybody would want to experience, but sometimes tiredness is just, I have done what I want to do, and now I feel light, and I want to then be revitalized. So the two of them would be different in how they started. You can be able to tell what activities surrounded when I first started noticing this. And then the key things, the hypervigilance, the avoidance, the hypersensitivity, avoidance. It's these things I'm avoiding, these things I'm vigilant about, are these things that I experience myself that I don't want to happen again. Then that would be primary trauma. But if I now see that, I'm having dreams about somebody that got raped, and you've never been raped, then you know that it is because you took on somebody else's experience and you were empathic enough to step into their shoes, and just like Toluse said, you must be able to understand that in the practice of caring for people, when they come to you that because they feel you have the expertise, they dump on you without mercy. That's just the fact. People dump on you without mercy, and they're not intentionally doing it. It's because you have said, I am the one you can come to talk about every and anything. Yeah. And just the same way you will not lie to your physical health doctor and expect to get the best diagnosis. You don't expect anybody who comes to session, comes for coaching, to beat around the bush. Yeah. So they are usually going to be very graphic, very detailed. They will tell you things they've never told any other person. So a lot of times you are privy to back. Sometimes it's even in things on the news. Yeah. It's on the news, but you know the person because they're in session, and you know the backstory to everything. You know the details, and then you now find yourself either getting jumpy or uneasy around those conversations in public because you know the full story, others don't. Yeah, in such situations, you know that that's not tiredness. You are experiencing, symptoms of acute stress, of course, or trauma, which both of them are divided based on duration, because somebody else has experienced it and they have come to retell it to you and you have internalized it. And of course, what will you do now? You try to protect yourself. You will try to, of course, let it out, which then takes us back to even the beginning, self-care, making a time out for yourself because, also even having people that you can talk to, systems that help you to distress, systems that help you to be able to, to be able to walk through challenging situations that you've had with clients. Because sometimes, when you were asking that question, you said going through a client's bios or sometimes even an assessment they took before the session. Sometimes you're not even prepared. You just walk into the session and you're bombarded with things you never even expected. Things like that happen. And you come out of that session, you're both tired and traumatized because it is, I can relate to this. It can either be I can relate with this, it has happened to me before, or I can relate with this. It is very humanly possible for this to happen. And in such situations, it's being able to know the difference. And of course, getting help. It's not trying to, on your own, sort out things. For tiredness, I think you can sort out tiredness on your own if you know the system that helps to work. But when it comes to trauma, when it comes to you finding out that you have taken on somebody else's experience, it's important to talk to someone about it to be able to sort that. So yes, it is, don't do more than yourself. And it's not because if you want to rough it, you can't. You can. Yeah. It's just that you end up bleeding on others. You will end up leaving your job, and a job that you started loving, you started out loving it. Over time, it just leaves this bad taste in your mouth because another story, another experience. And it's just because you have been stressed and traumatized over time by people's consistent experiences and you're not dealing with it. So of course, because I see this job, being a therapist, being a coach, you are also in the front line. It's just that you're not in the front line of gunshots, but you're actually in the front line of human experiences, gone bad, gone good, human experiences that took a left turn. You are in the front line of it. And you get to get the blow by blow. And sometimes, just to say, sometimes you have sessions and it's almost like people's experiences remind you how wicked people can be. Yeah. I don't know if you get my point. Maybe you have a session with a couple and then both parties are telling a story. And then you're like, how do people do this to themselves? Yeah. And then it's just reminding you again of what humanity is capable of, and then you leave that session feeling, wow, I should be cautious of people. I should be this of people. And it's not like as if you had any experience or anybody particularly did anything to you. But you've had two people who said they started that journey with love and now they're here doing this to themselves. And then you now take on a mantra or a mindset to life. I should be careful. That is secondary trauma. That is you responding to something you didn't experience. That is you being cautious about something that didn't happen to you directly, but to someone else. And in a bid to protect yourself from it happening to you, you then take on those symptoms of protecting yourself from it happening, essentially. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. This is what we've just had is a real conversation. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing. Thank you so much. Now, Toluse, I'm still trying to gather my thoughts around all Sharon has shared around we understanding or discerning the difference between tiredness and secondary trauma. She said that we cannot sort out tiredness on our own without necessarily defining if it is real tiredness or trauma-based or whatever is wrong with us is trauma-based. Now, a lot of us experience burnout, and I recently read a research from WHO that said that redefined the concept of burnout as not exhaustion, but rather emotional depletion of some sort. Can you, still bordering on what Sharon has shared, can you, like from your experience, educate us on the early warning signs to expect so that we don't necessarily just crash out of compassion fatigue? And how can we deal with it before it becomes that full crash? It's just bordering on all Sharon has said. Toluse.
I mean, I think Sharon said it all. But let me just say that.
Did you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me? I'm speaking. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can everyone hear
Yes, I
me?
can.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So the thing about
Yes, I
burnout
can. Did you
is
hear me at all?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think burnout is gradual. I think burnout doesn't happen all of a sudden. All those times where you feel I'm not feeling too good, but I can still push it. I feel tired, but I need to go, I can push it. I have slight headache. Let me just take this analgesic and then step out. You're able to do it. Those are the signs, right? But you see, the natural being of humans is that as long as I can still get up, I'll go moving until you're incapacitated and you're unable to move anymore. But you shouldn't get to that. Every time you must ask yourself, this tiredness that I'm feeling, is it emotional? Is it mental? Or is it physical? Because when we say there is no health without mental health, you see, there's usually this metric that I used to explain concepts like that. I call it the problem matrix. So where you have the problem feeling, the problem thinking, and the problem behavior. So if you feel a certain way, you would think in line with the way you feel, and then you would act out in the way you think. And so it's important to ask yourself, do I feel exhausted? Now, what are some of the signs that creep in gradually? Irritability and frustration. Little things begin to irritate you, right? Sometimes you have loss of motivation. Sometimes you even start feeling detached from people. Again, it's subtle, it's gradual. You don't just flatten out, right? It starts gradually. Sometimes you're beginning to forget things. It seems like there is this fog in your brain. I used to call it your brain being clouded, right? You are putting A where B should be, you are putting C where Z should be, and everything is not just being assembled, in your head. And then sometimes you could be ineffective. But you see, because you are still able to push through, or maybe you have help, right? Maybe you have people who work with you that are able to delegate. And so it's like, oh, you're getting things going, work is going on, the business is moving. But in the real sense of it, you're going down. So it does. So these signs, so I like to classify them under emotional and mental, then physical. Now the physical sign is like the breaking point, so to speak, because when you're not able to get out of bed, is when you now accept that you are burnt out. But no, sir, ma, the burnout has been burning before it got burnt. It's been burning, right? You just didn't pay attention. You were trying to pour water gradually, but you were burning gradually until there was nothing left in the pot anymore. Everything had turned black. That's when you realize that, oh, I am burnt out. So you are no longer it's not even burnt out anymore. It's now burnt out. But you see, you don't have to wait until that physical period where you are now completely exhausted. So you need to pay attention, every day when you wake up, okay, you stretch, you're able to stretch, you're able to move your legs, you're able to turn your body, there's no crack, 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 you're okay and everything. But then sit down and ask yourself, what's my head like today? How light am I? How clear am I? What's my mind feeling like today? how emotional am I? How exhausted am I in terms of how I feel, right? So you need to gauge your feelings and your thoughts. And so maybe I should wrap up by using the pillars of mental health to explain how you can begin to pay attention to those things. So your cognitive well-being, which is your cognition, your ability to think properly. Are you paying attention to how you think, or just because you are a coach and whatever you tell your client will say, thank you, sir, thank you, ma. I mean, you are your guy here. You want to sit back and say, but come to think of it, what I just said or what I'm about to say, does it even, correlate? Should I be saying that? Your social well-being, are you suddenly disinterested in relating with people, in being social? As your taste of music changed, as your kind of food changed, have you lost interest in even how you used to dress? You want to pay attention to those things. You want to pay attention to how you feel, right? Are you all of a sudden weighed down, or are you overly excited? Are you any little thing you are irritable, or things just get at you and everybody is wondering, but this thing is not, is something okay? So you want to pay attention to those things, and they start subtly and gradually. So don't wait until your physical health is truncated, where you're unable to move around, and they are not like, what was wrong with you, man? But it's the same thing with hunger. Hunger does not just come. It starts gradually. It's gradually you begin to feel like your stomach is empty. What then now happens, why sometimes people eat garbage, is that you're now at that point where your hands are shaking because your glucose level has been depleted. That if you don't eat now, it's like you start seeing stars of the galaxy. So don't wait until you're incapacitated before you take a move. Pay attention. I think it's just a call for us to pay attention to our bodies, pay attention to things happening around you. And you don't have to be a doctor, to know that. Just keep records, check around you. How do you feel when you wake up? How do you feel when you go to bed? When you go to work, I was at someone's office. I was saying that, look, it's a bad practice that you just shut down your computer and off you go home. No, relax. Let out all the calculations, the finances you've been defending all day, and let it out. Take time before you get into your car or go take that vehicle to go, because it's been realized that one of the reasons why conflicts happen at home is because the pressure that you have had from work, you did not depressure, if I can use that word, before you left the office. And so you jumped into your car, you experienced the traffic on the road. One driver is driving anyhow. One driver is not paying attention to you. You have yelled at yourselves, you know who I am? Who the heck are you? Where are you coming from? What is wrong with you? Can you see my car? Can you see my keke? And then you get home, and then what shouldn't even be an issue becomes an issue. So it's also important when you close, shut down the computer, take a stroll if you can, say high five to some friends, make some jokes, be sure that you have relaxed a little bit before you head home, because that thing you are bringing from work, you're already burning out from work. And so you get home, and then what shouldn't be irritable to you becomes irritable. I hope that makes sense.
I think you just muted Toluse in case you want to wrap up. Toluse, you're on mute.
I was done. Sorry, can't hear me?
I heard you.
Can anyone hear me? Sharon, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Just to be
can.
sure.
I just think there's a
We're
lag
back
issue.
on Toluse.
We can hear you.
Okay, I can. Oh, so maybe the network threw me out. Thank you so much. I heard you now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yes, so okay. So let's bring this to a quick wrap. Thank you so much, Toluse. Sharon, as we close this, can you still hear me, Sharon?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sharon, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. I don't know. Can anyone else hear me?
Okay. So as we bring this to a close, right? What is the one, thank you Thank you. So what is the one practice or principle, that, yes, I can hear you, Sharon.
Okay.
What one practice or principle has helped you stay grounded? You know, you are a clinical psychologist. Can you share? Can you share?
Yeah. Okay. So one practice that has helped me stay grounded, I would say, is something that I do at work. And amazingly, it's not something I do privately. It's where other therapists, we just come together every month and we just talk. Yeah. We just talk about clients' cases, difficult ones, just asking people, okay, this was the session I had. Um, this and this were the issues that were brought forward. These were the things that we did. What do you think? Yeah, just having that opportunity to bounce ideas off other people who are a lot of times either senior colleagues or even junior colleagues anyway, because ideas can come from anywhere, and support. So I would say one thing I do that has really helped me is not to assume that I can carry it on my own. It's beautiful to know that you're a powerhouse, but it's also beautiful to also understand that wherever you are, it's a contribution, it's communal. Yeah. So it's leaning and depending on both my personal community in my private life and also leaning on my professional community regularly, not just at different times, but regularly, making an activity, a monthly activity outside of leaning on people to just rest for a while, and have them give me feedback. And of course, in such things too, it also helps. I believe it has helped me over time to strengthen my backbone for constructive criticisms. Yeah. So when someone says, oh, okay, I think you should have taken this direction with this person, you're not quick to get riled up and get emotional. What do you mean? Do you know how many degrees I have? Do you know how many? No, it just helps you to be able to say, okay, it helps you to be able to appreciate, other points of view. So I would say that one practice I've always leaned on and has always helped me is to lean on others. And of course, in turn, also provide that space for others to when they want to lean on me. Yeah, so it's always symbiosis. I lean on others, they also lean on me. And it's that beautiful, beautiful sense of belonging and safety and understanding that you have your own that you can always run back to if you need help or support with anything. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharon. Now, just stay on. In your work as a mental health advocate, we all know that, there's still this stigma and taboo around mental health issues, challenges, and all of that. So how do you advise, we coaches how do you advise African coaches, mental health professionals to lead the movement towards an emotionally healthy, intelligent, and mentally improved community? How do you advise those coaches to lead that movement?
Okay, so I would say that, at least anybody who has seen the trend on the growth of with regards to paying attention to mental health, I think one very major event we can look at would be the NSAS. And we would say that as a country, we became very aware of the fact that people are actually going through a lot. And, based on experience too, I've come to realize that a lot of the stigma that people have with regards to mental health care is ignorance. And for me, I like to say the annoying type of ignorance is the ignorance that comes from misinformation. It's possible to be ignorant that you don't know. I think that's even a better thing. But see, the ignorance that comes from you feel you know, and what you know is just nonsense. Yeah, and then you are now very passionate about passing that idea over. So I think if there's anything that anybody can do, with regards to mental health awareness, is ensuring that you have the right information when it comes to mental health. And not just the right information, have the right information. It's almost like saying mental health for dummies. Have it at its simplest form, where you can explain it to both the educated, the uneducated, you can help people see. And of course, be an advocate for correcting wrong notions. If there's one wrong notion, I always correct them. People say, how are your clients? And they say, how many mad people? I say, I don't treat mad people. Madness is a social insult. There's no diagnostic or statistical manner that has madness and says this is the duration. No. Yeah. So it's understanding that a lot of people have the attitude they have towards mental health because they have the wrong information. And the best way to do it is to correct the wrong information that people have. And even in correcting, don't leave people with complicated information. You know, something that Tolu said, what are the tenets of mental health? Break it down. What's the cognitive? What's the emotional? Don't just say mental health and leave people. Let them understand that there's the social part, there's the cognitive part, there's the emotional part. And all these things come together to affect our well-being. So I would say mental health awareness starts with proper information, disseminating it as simply as possible, and ensuring that you correct wrong notions that people have.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Toluse, the mentalist himself. Thank you, Sharon, the clinical psychologist. Thank you for your time, the wisdom, and sharing for your from your expertise. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me and many of you listening here is that we all can't pour from an empty cup. And so we have to be quite conscious of how our coaching services, how we do our coaching, how we help other people, so that it's not depleted and it can stay sustainable. I think my network is a bit shaky. I'm going to hand over to Collins or ID to just take up from here. Thank you everyone so much for listening in. My name is Patience Carrier, and I'm a certified body coach, and I'm happy to